الحمد لله ثم الحمد لله. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله، وما توفيقي ولا اعتصامي إلا بالله، عليه توكلت وعليه فليتوكل المؤمنون. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ولا نذير له ولا مثال له، وأشهد أن سيدنا وسندنا ومولانا محمدا عبده وحبيبه ورسوله. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد، فيا عباد الله، أوصيكم ونفسي الخاطئة بتقوى الله وطاعته، إن الله مع الذين اتقوا والذين هم محسنون. يقول ربنا سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، وقل جاء الحق وزهق الباطل إن الباطل كان زهوقا. We praise Allah as He deserves to be praised, and we ask Him to send His peace and His blessings upon His beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family members, his companions, and all of those who followed his way of life. Dear brothers and sisters, the Quran, the Word of God, is very explicit in mentioning that the truth will always prevail and the falsehood will always be vanished. In Surah Isra, this is very clearly mentioned. Say, O Prophet ﷺ, say to the people that the truth has come. قُلْ جَاءَ الْحَقِّ وَزَهَقَ الْبَاطِلِ. And the batil, falsehood, wrong, injustice, oppression, all of these evil matters are going to be diminished, are going to be vanished when the truth comes. قُلْ جَاءَ الْحَقِّ وَزَهَقَ الْبَاطِلِ إِنَّ الْبَاطِلَ كَانَ زَهُوقًا. Indeed, the falsehood will always be vanished. In other words, even if the falsehood takes place in a society, in the world, for a period of time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never and ever enable for falsehood to remain there for a long, long time. It will be vanished. Whether those people who commit injustice, oppress others, cause destruction on earth, cause corruption on earth, whether they say and they legitimize their actions, or they straight up manifest their evil without hiding it, in either way is going to be vanished. Whether it's this way, when they are very clear about it and they mention that this is what we're doing, or they're doing it and they pretend that they're not doing it, they say that we're not doing it, we're defending ourselves. Regardless of how they manifest that, the falsehood will always vanish. Islam, when Islam came as a light to the world. To begin with, rejecting the false belief in idols and saying that these are not the ones who are going to save you. These are not the ones who you should worship. But it is your Lord. It is one Creator that has created everything, including yourselves, that needs to be worshipped. That is the haqq. That is the truth that Islam came with. And yet, the part of this truth as well is not only, as we have mentioned a few times, is not only the vertical line, which is God and the creation, but it is also the horizontal line, communicating with other people, establishing justice, removing evil, standing for the truth, supporting those who are in need, supporting the truth, right? All of these elements that are horizontal are all a part of that haqq that the Quran talks about, that truth that the Quran talks about. When Islam came, it came to reform the manners, the ethics in society. And as I said earlier, the justice, stand for just cause. Children were being murdered alive. The people, there were those who had power, as it is happening nowadays, those who had money and they had power, they were oppressing those who were weaker and they were poorer. Islam said no to all of this. We have to reform the society. They were getting in debt so much from interest. They were losing so much, and Islam said no to interest. They were eating all kinds of things that could be very harmful to the body and drinking things that could be harmful to the body. Islam said no to that thing, not to those things either. So it reformed the human life. It reformed the human society. It reformed the understanding of God and worshiping God. And that was the haqq, that was the truth that came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nowadays, we see that oppression is taking place in so many societies around the world, but in particularly in Muslim countries. There was a period of time for many centuries where Muslims had the upper hand in the world. They were very powerful. They were leading societies with justice, with ethics, with visions, respecting other people as well, honoring and respecting their rights, including the minorities in their own countries, living in peace and harmony with others as well. We are witnesses that the Jewish people in Andalusia, in Spain, where Muslims ruled for over 700 years, they lived in peace. And they had prestigious places of education where they developed, they progressed. They were the most effective and skilled doctors in that society, and they were honored and respected. And the Christians at the same time. As a matter of fact, in the universities, they study about the coexistence of these three different traditions in a society. And they have names for this coexistence and how beautifully they live together and they work together with one another in Andalusia. And we're not standing here saying that it was 100% perfect, because humans are not perfect. Regardless whether you're a Muslim or it doesn't matter. Human cannot be 100% perfect, because perfection belongs only to God. So mistakes can be made, but we're looking at overall picture here. Same thing in the Ottoman Empire for 600, 700, 800 years. We have seen the establishment of the Jewish communities in Istanbul and other places in Turkey, for example, and in places where the Ottomans dominated, respected, having their places of worship, not having their synagogues being destroyed and bombarded, and people in those places being murdered, the walls being erected, the walls being destroyed. We don't see this. Yet today, in Gaza, the oldest mosque of the place, since the 1300s, today was destroyed by the Zionist government of Israel. People were murdered there. This cannot be justified. This cannot be justified. A normal human being who doesn't have to be a politician, does not have to be a judge to decide on cases, does not have to be a reporter, qualified reporter, or somebody who does analysis. A normal human being will tell you that this cannot be justified. Even if you have your enemies in those premises there, you still cannot bomb and destroy an entire mosque or a church or a synagogue or a place of worship that is, especially if it is that old. Why? Because you're not only destroying walls, you are destroying history. When people go in that place, they have created history there. They have memory in that place there. That was a place where they received guidance. That was the place where they connected with their Creator. That's a place where they felt their heart alive more than any other place for hundreds and hundreds of years. And now you are destroying that history. You are destroying those memories of the people. It cannot be justified no matter how you look at it. Churches being bombed in Gaza cannot be justified. I don't know how Christians are being silenced about this. I have never seen any in my life, and I'm not that old, but in my life I haven't seen Christians not reacting to their houses of worship being burned and being destroyed. And they're not saying anything about it. There is no concern. And of course Muslims as well. It is only the Shab, it is only the people who are feeling this pain. And a lot of these leaders, they care less of what's happening. A mosque that is almost 700 years being destroyed. The Quran talks about this. وَمَنْ أَظْلَمُ ممن منع مساجد الله أن يذكر فيه اسمه وسعى في خرابها أولئك ما كان عليهم أن يدخلوها إلا خائفين لهم في الدنيا خزي ولهم في الآخرة عذاب عظيم. Who can be more oppressive than those who prevent others from going to the houses of worship? Who can be more oppressive than those who disable, who stop, who prevent people to go to the houses of worship? where the name of God is being mentioned in those. And these are the same people who are also helping in their destruction. In other words, who can be more oppressive than those who are also contributing to the destruction of these places of worship? It's very clear. Quran talks very clearly about it. Who can be more oppressive than these individuals? In other words, in the eyes of God, these are the most oppressive people, where their oppression contributes even in destroying the houses of worship. You are destroying houses. It's not fine, but this is one thing. You're destroying some other places. Okay, this is another thing. But to destroy the houses of worship, you have to really be evil to do that. To destroy hospitals where the sick people, they find cure. To destroy churches and these other places. This is ridiculous. This is the most oppressive expression, or this is the most oppressive expression that somebody can really express. And the motives are very clear. And we live in days where all of those who are supporting such extremists, such terrorists, such oppressive individuals or governments are very open to the rest of the world. If the world considered certain systems in the world to be the freedom fighters, to be those who defend democracy and the rights of the people, the rights of religion, the rights of having places of worship, the protection of places of worship, leaders of democracy, leaders of the free world, their true picture is exposed today. The whole world knows that these are hypocrites. These are decaying systems that unless they stand for what they believe with reality, with sincerity, and put people in charge who are standing right with that sincerity, and not for money, not for fame, and not calling for only a single race and then caring less about the rest of society. Unless the societies, they raise these people up, these sincere people, these freedom fighters, then we can start seeing a change. Otherwise, the reality is exposed. And I hear this from so many people around the world, people that I know, saying that even, the way how they talk, they say that the leaves are dropped now. If you are not able to see the trunk or the branches of the tree because of so many leaves that are preventing you from seeing it, and these leaves are false claims, false words, then now the leaves are down. And now you can see the real branches of the trees, whether they are healthy or they are decayed. And I come personally, and I know how hard it is, from a place where over 1,000 mosques, including churches as well, churches, a number on top of it, they were destroyed in a few years. Like, there was no country in the world that ever did this, destroying over 1,000 masajids. Communists in Albania. Majority Muslim country. But then we see that in 1990, hundreds and hundreds of mosques started being built right away. يُرِيدُونَ لِيُطْفِئُوا نُورَ اللَّهِ بِأَفْوَاهِهِمْ وَاللَّهُ مُتِمُّ نُورِهِ. They want to destroy, to diminish the light of God with their mouth. In other times you have them with their actions. But Allah is the one who is going to complete His light. Despite the fact that these individuals, these hypocrites, these non-believers, whatever you want to call them, they want to do that. Despite that fact, God will always complete His light, complete His faith. What did they gain out of it? They gained nothing. They destroyed all of that work, and now again the society is rebuilding those mosques. But the problem is not what happened only in Albania. It is what happened in Bosnia. It is what happened in Kosovo. It is what happened and keeps happening in Palestine. It is what happened in Syria. It is what happened in Iraq. It is what's happening in Somalia, in Sudan, and so many. What are these countries? These are all Muslim countries. It is what's happening in Burma with Muslims being murdered, being slaughtered right and left. Like no other country, like no other time, Muslims dying by millions in a short period of time. Being gone completely from the face of the earth. And you don't need to really understand a lot. You don't need to, analysts to tell you that, look, they're destroying the Muslim world. They want to destroy the Muslim world. Again, you don't need analysts to tell you this. Yes, there are wars in Venezuela, in here, there, other places, no doubt. And there can be oppression, there can be injustices, there can be murder taking place and all of that. But nothing compared to what's happening to the Muslim world right now. So there is an agenda to destroy your countries. There is an agenda to destroy your faith, because your faith is the fastest growing religion in the world. And if it's going this way, in 2050, they're predicting that Islam to be the number one religion in the world. These are not Muslim statistics. If that's reality, if that's what's happening, how can we stop this? They're masterminded people. Don't be in heedlessness. Don't be thinking like, well, nobody's interested to do this. People are interested to just work, do their job, go home, sleep, and do that. Absolutely not. You're being very naive if you think that way. There are masterminds in the world. They have their own personal agendas. Organizations that are driven with agendas. That's what's happening. And the results are showing us that. We don't even need to read or anything. If Muslims are being murdered from Europe to Asia to Africa constantly, year after year, if the war stops in Iraq, it starts in Syria. If it stops there, it goes on in Egypt, it goes on in Sudan, it goes on in other places. So there is an agenda behind all of this. And there is an agenda in erasing your history as well. Because when these wars are happening, the history slowly is being erased. In Iraq, how many places they were bombarded? How many mosques were destroyed? How many old ones? In Syria, even people in their graves, awliyas of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, saints, were bothered, bombed, graves being bombed in order to erase your history. Because if you have a history, then even if you're oppressed today, you die today, your children tomorrow will say, wait, this is a place where my grandfather used to be. This is a place, this is a masjid right here. This is a mosque. This is a hospital that used to be built by Palestinians or by these certain Muslims long time ago. So by destroying all of these things, all of these historical places, whether they're mosques or other types of building, they're erasing the history. And they can claim later on that this is our place. You never existed here. That's what's happening in Palestine too. You never existed here. This is our place. Legitimizing the right to occupy your land. That's what it is. But again, what is our responsibility? Our responsibility is to stand for the truth always, to speak the truth, to defend the truth, and do the most that we can to inform everybody about what's happening. And also to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the betterment of our situation. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروا إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله حمد الكاملين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. From this pulpit right here, I admire and I have nothing to say but the best words for the Secretary General of the United Nations, who stood a few days ago and did something that was not done in 30 years in utilizing the Article 99 to stand for the ceasefire and to gather, to call for an immediate and urgent meeting with all of these powerful nations that are part of United Nations together. Allahu Alam, Allah knows whether this is going to make a difference or not, because we know that all the countries that are there, they are for ceasefire in Palestine, except for one country, except for United States. They don't want ceasefire, they want the war to continue. They're okay for the bombardment of the people. They're fine with that. They're okay with the destruction of all of these buildings. We're not okay, but we're allowing that to happen. This is what they're saying. We feel sorry for that, but they shouldn't stop. We feel sorry for people who are dying. We cannot have them stop. They should continue. They should continue because they got to get the terrorists. This is the hypocritical approach and the answer that they're given. While the whole world is standing against, the only country in the world from all of those in the United Nations who are in the Security Council, only United States is vetoing. That's becoming the obstacle from the war to stop over there. This is the hypocrisy that we're living in. We're not calling people to revolt or to do things that are abnormal. We're letting you know of what's happening. And we're telling you within the law, within the permissible ways, right, of reaction, we should react. We should do something. We should say something. We should spread the news. We should sign, if we have somebody, whether it is a senator or a congressman or whatever, who is putting together a platform saying that we need your vote in this to stop, for example, what's happening over there, we should be among those who sign those declarations as well. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help all of us, help the justice always prevail. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala show mercy to those who are suffering. May Allah elevate may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remove the suffering from people. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them cure. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stop the oppression, and may He make us among those who contribute towards the betterment of this world, towards the betterment of our communities, towards justice overall. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Warda Allahumma an sadatina Abi Bakr wa Umar wa Uthman wa Ali wa an ahli bayti Rasulillah wa ashabi al-kiram wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsanin ila yawm ad-din. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون وأقم الصلاة